It's the 26th of December, and I've come out without a microphone, so I hope this sounds alright. But so I don't have children, and a number of people, I suppose most people I work with do have children, and I would hear obviously I'm aware of the intensity and the busyness and the stress of having kids and having to get them up and dress them and get them to breakfast, get them to school or play school or collect them, get them to classes, all that time and energy that's invested, but also how much they challenge their parents and those around them. There's a book by Ramtha. The name of the book escapes me at this moment. If I think of it, I'll put a link below. But he does talk about the contracts, in a sense, of why we have children and why we choose our children, what they present to us. So beyond the veil, you and your child or children made an agreement that you would come in here and you would push each other in certain aspects, certain ways to expand. So as I've said many times before, there is nothing to figure out. You don't have to sit down now with a graph and a notebook and take notes about what they do or they say. That's all the mind. Get the fuck out of your mind. So travel into your body and witness what frequencies pass through your body when your children or child do whatever they do. That triggers you or pushes you or challenges you. Now consider as well that the possibility, because a lot of people, I have always thought like this, but a lot of people don't think like this, but your child is not a blank page that you have to, so this is just a potential. Don't get all wound up. And if you do, you can thank me in the comments below for presenting, mirroring, or reflecting back to you your unintegrated and unresolved shadow. You're welcome. This is a free session. So consider that your child is not a blank page. Your child has been here, as have you, for many, 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 many lifetimes. In fact, endless. We are endless consciousness. These beings come in with a wealth of history and a wealth of knowledge and experience. As a human, obviously, they have to learn to walk and talk and eat and take care of themselves in this and in this society, this new world to them. But they're not stupid, and parents often do think that their children are stupid. Perhaps consider the role of being a container for your child. You're not here to force them to be successful. So every parent wants their child to get through school, to get good grades, to get a good job, to be able to look after themselves. Just maybe they're here for much greater reasons. Much greater reasons than fucking working in a bank, or than making a good living, or than getting A's or getting into university or college. Perhaps there is the idea of the Starseeds. Perhaps you don't recognize the greatness in your child yet, and the reason is that you're not awake enough yet. As I've often said, awakening is a continuous. It's not a case of saying, I awoke in 1997 or I am awakened now. It's a continuous journey. And sure, you may meditate, you may do yoga, you may do shadow work, you may do whatever, but this is a continual unfolding for you to see what you didn't see. As you listen to this, you can look back a month ago or 6 months ago or a year ago, and you're a very different person perhaps than those times, and you have a greater expanded awareness right now than you did in those times. So consider that you're not aware enough yet, and I would guarantee that between the dynamic within families or parents, this is where we're most challenged and most closed off, most triggered. So if you're challenged by your child or children, that basically means you've got shit to integrate and shit to be cleared. The more that clears, the more you're going to be aware of the potential, or even see some of the potential of what this child is carrying, what this child is here for. So at times I consider that my only role is simply to help people to clear their shadow. That if we can integrate the shadow, we're very quickly, as those who've worked with me, the few that have worked with me have seen that very quickly we can become quite empowered. Like things get rocky and chaotic, but we can get some big fucking pieces of the jigsaw as we integrate the shadow. So then if these parents go on to work with their children, and I don't mean fucking teach their children shadow work or any of that kind of thing. I mean, as the parent integrates the pieces that the child is presenting, the child is only reflecting back to you your unintegrated pain, your unintegrated frequencies, your shadow. They're big pieces. So if every day you've got a child that's kicking off and being disruptive in school or at home or not eating their breakfast or whatever it may be, or brings up pain, who seems to be silent or depressed or whatever it may be, who's activating stuff and showing stuff in you, they're big pieces. So your role, dare I say it, is not to bring that child somewhere and try to fix them. Your role is to integrate those pieces within yourself. And as you integrate that pain or that anger or that whatever it may be within yourself, the dynamic with the child changes. Your child will present a different frequency to you. And those who've worked with me have seen this, that as we, maybe not so much with children, but certainly as we integrate our own stuff, those around us change. And it's not by conversation. It's not by telling them to live differently, teaching them shadow work or fucking telling them to meditate, any of these kind of things. That's all out there. That's all projection, entirely projection. The way to change the world is change yourself, is to look within. So it's really important, to finish my point, that at times I feel my role here is just to work with a handful of people. That's it. I don't know that. So these handful of people, as they integrate their shadow, especially around the charged dynamics of partner, husband, wife, children, these are pretty charged situations, family members, parents, these are the most charged. This is where the most growth is. As they can integrate those most charged and challenged, the youngest obviously would be the kids. The kids would potentially be the starseeds. So why would a child contract to be born under you to inherit your DNA? And why would the child contract to be born under you in this time that you face and begin to work with your shadow? I can only say that by me, that the people I work with seem to be pretty intense and on some pretty extreme, in some senses, journeys. And those who follow my work for a while, have seen that I seem to be on a pretty intense journey. It ain't fluffy, and at times I certainly wish it was. So the end of that line, or maybe not the end of that line, but as we move down through that line, we find these kids that can extremely benefit from the parents working with their own stuff, the parents facing and integrating their addictions or their anger, the unintegrated rage of mothers, which is plentiful. Angry women. And I love angry women. It's not something at all to be ashamed of. If you haven't heard it, there's a video on my channel very recently about women and rage. It's very purposeful to integrate that. Society may be ashamed of it, or women are ashamed of being angry, but it's highly purposeful. So to integrate that deeply empowers, raises up, clears, frees your children for whatever work they may be here to do. You don't have to teach them anything. You don't have to make them. They're not to be put into a mold and try and make them become spiritual or become healers or become fucking accountants or anything. Allow them to breathe on their journey. Your dis-ease of how they may unfold, if they may end up homeless, unemployed, broke, sick, whatever it may be, that's your dis-ease. So it's your responsibility to integrate that. Then you can be the container. Then you can support them. You can hold space for them without trying to impress your intentions and your views onto them. There's enough parents out there that are trying to make their kids fucking, you know, child celebrities or child tennis players or child ballerinas or whatever the fuck. That's all your stuff. Allow your child to breathe. Allow them to be nobody. Allow them to go through that stage of being nothing, not knowing who they are, and you not knowing who they are. Maybe they just watch TV. Maybe they just read books. Maybe they just walk in nature. Allow that space. So you have a contract with them. The contract is, are you ready? You're gonna want to write this down because you're gonna have to decipher it. There's a lot of figures. This is a chess game. You're gonna have to figure all this out. Your contract is to integrate the frequencies that they present to you. That's it. There's no essays required. I'm sorry. I know you would like to sit down for many months and figure all this out, and perhaps write books on it, how I figured out my contract with my child. Because it's so heady, it's so intellectual. Put all that shit in the bin. Burn it all down. If you've taken notes, set fucking fire to them. Witness the frequency that they reflect back to you. Your impatience, your tiredness and exhaustion and anger. It's all a gift. As you integrate and witness and be present with all that, you will change. And as you change, they will change. I've seen it enough times and I've experienced it enough times myself. Do I have anything else to say? And your child is very important here. Plays a great role, perhaps. And perhaps, as I've said in other videos about me or about you, that these roles are not necessarily defined as being something important with a label in front of an audience, writing a book, doing anything. Sometimes or oftentimes these roles are just energetic. We're lighthouses. We emanate a frequency. So someone who cleans toilets or sweeps the roads or stacks shelves in the local supermarket, but who has integrated their rage or their sexual abuse or their addictions and is in the flow of their own frequency, that person is far, far, far more important than the idiot on a stage or who's written a book or who's a YouTube channel with 335, I think, subscribers I have. This person is far more important who's in that supermarket or cleaning those toilets, because they're emanating an authentic, integrated frequency. Whoever they encounter, they're infecting other people with, as opposed to infecting and vibrating and exuding a frequency of dysfunction or addiction. Not that there's anything wrong with that, so don't feel bad. We all have layers of this to integrate. But consider where these children may go. So as you face your shadow and integrate your shadow, the people you're affecting, the people you're raising up, and most importantly, your children who are around you so many hours of the day. You don't even have to be communicating with them. You don't have to teach them anything. They could be asleep in another room in the house for many hours of the night, but they're being affected by your frequency. They're being affected by the work that you're doing on yourself, by the courage and power you have to witness your own fucking pain and grief, the sadness. We all have a lot of grief to face and integrate. It's not a bad thing at all. It's liberating. It's freeing. It's healing. It's purposeful. But to be present with that, rather than watching hours of television or being on Facebook for hours, the gift that you're giving energetically, you don't have to teach them anything. Energetically, they are learning from you that this, my mother, my father, can be present, can be with herself in whatever she's going through. As things break down in the house, as he or she loses their jobs, as the car breaks down or gets a puncture, as whatever, they're learning your ability. They're matching it. And then they go out into the world with this frequency or with this pattern learned that they can infect and raise other people. And maybe it will be more proactive. Maybe they will write books or stand on a stage, or who knows. But maybe not. They don't need to do any of that. You don't need to make them do any of that. Anyway, I'll put some links below. Thanks for listening, and be well. Bye.